Good morning and welcome to KidNuz, generously sponsored by the Parton family of Atlanta, Georgia, to celebrate the birthdays of Andrew and Nora. I'm Tori. Today is Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. And we begin with two Ukrainian kids getting a hero's welcome at their new school in Italy. Video captured the moment 10-year-old Dmitry and 8-year-old Victoria walked through the doors of the Da Milani Institute in Naples. Little did they know that on the other side was an entire school body waving Ukrainian flags and cheering wildly to welcome their new classmates. The young refugees didn't seem to understand the attention was for them until a few of their new Italian friends took their hands and walked them through the receiving line. The United Kingdom is also rolling out the welcome mat, so much so a just-launched website to help house refugees crashed. 10,000 people an hour were signing up when it went down. A UK official says the glitch shows the enormous generosity of the British people. 3 million Ukrainians have fled since the shelling began 3 weeks ago. At 9 a.m. Eastern Time this morning, the president of Ukraine will make a rare wartime address to a joint session of Congress, and Americans can watch it. Volodymyr Zelensky's virtual pleas for help will play on a big screen in an auditorium inside the Capitol complex. Unlike a previous meeting with lawmakers, the address will be live-streamed to television networks. President Biden, meantime, is headed to Brussels, Belgium next week for what's being called an extraordinary summit to reassure NATO allies rattled by Russia's aggression. He reportedly won't visit Ukraine, unlike the prime ministers of Poland, Slovenia, and the Czech Republic, who braved ongoing airstrikes yesterday to take a train into the capital to meet with Mr. Zelensky personally. NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei just flew into the history books. Yesterday, he marked 340 straight days in space, beating the U.S. record previously held by Scott Kelly. What's more, he's due to be on the International Space Station another 15 days before returning in a Russian capsule. His ride home sparked concern because of the current state of U.S.-Russia relations, but NASA says there are no borders in space, the teams are professional, and that a crew of Americans will be on the ground in Kazakhstan to bring Mark back to Houston. Headed in the opposite direction, Saturday Night Live's Pete Davidson. He'll be one of 6 passengers on board Blue Origin's next flight, which is set to blast off a week from today. The move to make daylight saving time permanent just took a big step forward. Yesterday, the U.S. Senate gave its stamp of approval. If it passes in the House and gets signed by the president, Americans would never have to mess with their clocks again. Presuming it moves forward, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida says the change wouldn't take effect until November of next year to give airlines and other transportation services time to adjust their schedules. In other KidNuz notes, a group of Mount Everest climbers recently set the Guinness record for having tea in the highest of places. Athlete Andrew Hughes arranged the mid-mountain get-together and carried all the extra supplies, including Girl Scout cookies. The party happened at Camp 2, 21,312 feet up, which is equivalent to 17 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other. Dolly Parton has politely declined her nomination to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The country music icon was in the running alongside artists such as Eminem and American Idol's Lionel Richie, but on Monday gracefully bowed out with a post that read, "I don't feel that I've earned the right." But she's not saying never. Dolly admitted she's wanted to put out a rock album for years. And tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, but Chicago got its party started early by turning its river emerald green. The tradition began in 1962 with a dye plumbers used to test for leaks. Today, the powder is earth-friendly and made from vegetables. Locals call it leprechaun dust because it starts out orange before coloring the water Shamrock green. Like Coke and KFC, the recipe is a well-guarded secret, but the people behind the tradition are not. The dye job is the exclusive responsibility of just 2 families, all sons and grandsons of the 2 police officers first chosen by then-Mayor Daley to make the magic happen. Before we get to our quiz, our sponsorship family, the Partons of Atlanta, Georgia, would like us to shout out the Pace Academy Knights, especially Mr. T and Nora, Ms. Gilmore and Andrew, and Charlie Parton and all of his awesome middle school teachers. Now, today's questions. Why is President Biden headed to Europe? To reassure NATO allies. A NASA astronaut will come home from space in what? A Russian capsule. The U.S. Senate voted to make what permanent? Daylight saving time. Where did 2 Ukrainian kids get a hero's welcome? At their new school in Italy. In today's KidNuz Kicker, remarkable examples of Russians risking everything to publicly slam the invasion of Ukraine. This week, a television editor in Moscow interrupted a live broadcast with a sign reading, "Stop the war. Don't believe propaganda. They're lying to you." She also pre-recorded a video apologizing for being part of the Kremlin's campaign of misinformation. So far, she's been fined 30,000 rubles, or about $280 US. And shortly after landing a flight in Turkey, a Russian airline pilot got on the intercom and told passengers, "The war with Ukraine is a crime. We must stop it immediately." He made the announcement in both Russian and English and got a big round of applause from everyone on board. Before we go, we want to shout out our teachers, starting with Mr. G at Pine Ridge in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Mrs. McCoy at RM Captain Elementary in Clayton, Missouri, to California for Mrs. Dillon at Pearl Zanker in Milpitas, and Mrs. McDowell at Mint Canyon in Canyon Country, and Madison Barr at Dury Elementary in Houston, Texas. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here for more KidNuz tomorrow morning.